So in the Catholic Church, what happens is that every valid marriage must constitute or must have some three requisites, what we call the prerequisites of a valid marriage. The first one is the manifestation of the consent. So what the man and the woman say to each other: I will marry you, I will take you to be my only wife or my only husband in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, until death do us part, etc. That is what is known as the exchange of consent. So this consent must be exchanged out of the parties' free will. And when that is properly done without any coercion, any force from outside of they themselves, for instance, parents are not forcing them to marry, or some other conditions are not forcing them to marry. But if they are marrying out of their own free will and they express this consent to each other willfully, then it's presumed that the consent is valid. So that's the first prerequisite of a valid marriage. The second one is what we call the manifestation itself. So they must have the ability to manifest. What does that mean? That means that there shouldn't be any impediment surrounding any of the parties. For instance, any of them should not be less than by Ghana law, should not be less than 18 years, even though in the Catholic Church, a girl of 14 years and a boy of 16 years can marry. Because our Catholic marriage has what we call the civil effects, usually we say the couple should at least be should be at least 18 years. All right. So that's what we also call the canonization of civil law. So even though the church law says 14 for a girl and 16 for a boy can marry, we try to canonize the civil law, which says 18, because that is considered the age of majority, so they can marry. So they must have the ability that is devoid of any impediments. So there shouldn't be any previous bond in any of the parties. That is, none of them should not have already married in the Catholic Church, which was not annulled in the Catholic Church before the second marriage. There are about 11 or 12 impediments. So they must have the ability, so that is devoid of any impediment that inhibits them from marrying. The third prerequisite of marriage is what is known as the canonical form, So that is marrying in the presence of a church's minister, that is in the presence of a bishop or a parish priest or their delegates, and before two witnesses. So Canon 1108, talk about that. So that's the canonical form, or what is usually known as the form of marriage. So these are the three prerequisites of marriage. If any of these three things are missing, then it invalidates the marriage. And that's what we call invalid marriage. So if the couples marry out of force, if the couples marry with an impediment, if the couples married without the presence of a Catholic partner or without two witnesses, there are some exceptions to these, but those exceptions must be dispensed by the local ordinary and all of that. If that is not done, then the marriage would have been celebrated invalidly.